are joined now by the principal founder of the Cronin Law Firm. Her name is Sabrina Cronin, and she is joining us now on the Oakland County Megacast. Sabrina, thank you for being with us.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Tyler. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. How are you? How's your team at Cronin Law Firm been throughout this pandemic?
We're great. I know it's been hard for so many people, but we picked up and did all of our work from home, and we still are, and we're servicing our clients, and we've been busier than ever, actually.
So you're continuing to work at home, as you said. A lot of businesses are reopening their offices slowly but surely, or have plans to do so in the future. Any plans to reopen the law firm in person anytime soon, or are you going to continue to do work from home for the foreseeable future?
Well, we've been servicing some of the clients that need to come in, obviously maintaining social distance, wearing masks, and of course, making sure everything's cleanly, clean, sterile. But some of the clients still need to come in to sign certain papers, get some certain documents, and some of the clients don't have access to the Zoom, capabilities at home, so they'll come into the office because court hearings are still taking place. And so we've allowed them to come in to do that. We've had some essential employees at the office, typically one or two, but we will be resuming back to normal starting in this month and going more into the following month.
With all these mounting issues that are COVID related, they're unemployment related, they're related to other issues in people's day-to-day lives, and they all are connected in some way or another and often lead to some stressful situations where people are not at their best. And in that case, sometimes we see actions be taken that maybe are regrettable or are not the best decisions. Have you seen any uptick in any particular kinds of cases across your desk come up during this pandemic?
Yes, absolutely. More and more incidences of domestic violence and assaultive cases have come across our office. We have seen such an uptick in high conflict family law matters, domestic relations, criminal cases. And I know we've also seen that throughout our community relative to a lot of the violent protests that we've been seeing. And unfortunately, it doesn't just stop in the home. And that's what we've been seeing.
Where are a lot of these cases happening, or why are you seeing any particular reasons why a lot of these domestic violence cases are increasing during this pandemic?
Well, unfortunately, I believe it's when people are forced to be at home and staying at home and not able to get out and, kind of release some of their frustration, some anxiety, their fears, their anger. People take it out on one another, and people take it out on their families, and people don't know how to handle their emotions. And I see that oftentimes in family law matters and domestic cases. And, unfortunately, it takes a very strong mind and a strong will. I know we were just listening to the woman before me talk about mental health, and mental health is such a large part of it. And learning how to control one's emotions is a big part of that. And what I see oftentimes in our line of work is when people don't know how to handle their emotions and don't know how to get, control of it, then they let things leak out. And unfortunately, other people suffer as a result, and they suffer too.
And in these cases that this happens, and you've seen a lot of that throughout the last several months during the coronavirus pandemic, people do lash out. They don't have control of their emotions. They make decisions that frankly are stupid and are unnecessary. And in a lot of these cases, domestic violence is something that's either been built up to or has happened before, not been reported. And in some of these cases, it's a lapse of judgment. It's a moment where emotions boil over. In those kinds of cases, keeping all of that in mind, how do you navigate that and deliberate between this is a problem that needs to be mediated and this is a problem that probably needs to be taken care of in court?
Well, it depends on how often it occurs. And I always say when people's backs are pushed against the wall, that's when their true character comes out. And, people can say they want to change. Let's just say in a domestic violence situation. And, typically it's the male assaulting the female, or it's because the female has oftentimes, maybe incited the male, or that's what they think. They'll get in that person's face and, they'll point the finger and they'll just go, 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 go. And I'm not saying that there's any justification for assault. There's no justification for hitting somebody. Absolutely not. But what you see is that someone will just snap. And if it's a one-time occurrence, they can get, help, and they can get, treatment for it. But if it's in someone's character that they've been doing this time and time again, it's like an addict. Unless you really work at it every single day of your life, trying to maintain, some sort of control over your own emotions, you will never be able to change. And you can only change if you truly want to change and you think you change. And a lot of times the people that do commit these assaultive crimes don't ever think it's their fault. They think it's the other person's fault. The wife who got in their face, they think it's that person's fault. They think it's, it's, COVID and the stay home order. It's the reason, people blame other people for their own problems, and they have to look within, and they have to truly want to change to effectuate any kind of positive change.
There's always factors that lead to certain decisions being made and certain actions being taken. But as you said, ultimately it comes down to you taking the action yourself and making your own decision and doing the right thing. And if it is something that is repeated, it's definitely a character issue at that point, and it has to be addressed very seriously in the cases of domestic violence, because we often see a lot of really tragic cases where this goes on for a long time, it's not addressed, or it's not addressed properly, and that can lead to an even worse situation for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And, you get the courts involved when you need that intervention. Sometimes people make the mistake of calling the police when you truly don't need it, when there's no crime that has been committed. And sometimes getting the police involved in your personal affairs only does more harm than good. But when there are certain troubling acts of violence, bad behavior that is definitely criminal, you need the police intervention. You need to get the court intervention with a PPO or some sort of other restraining order, because sometimes you just can't do it alone. And typically when women are in abusive situations year after year after year, their level of tolerance gets so high that they don't even know what's reasonable, what's not, and that's why they need some help in that regard.
Moving on, we just because we have a few more minutes left with you on the show today, Sabrina Cronin, the principal founder of the Cronin Law Firm, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Counselor, businesses are reopening, restaurants and retail this week, salons and barbers reopening next week. How can businesses reopen and provide an enjoyable service, but at the same time keep themselves legally protected and within the laws that be related to COVID-19 protections?
Well, there are certain levels of risk exposure with businesses, and the executive orders, laid out by the governor is very specific with respect to what businesses have to do to comply pursuant to the law. And we have given a lot of our business clients guidelines based upon not only those executive orders, but also OSHA and other requirements that comply with the law. And for instance, social distancing is necessary. Wearing masks is necessary. For the employment, the employer oftentimes has to supply certain PPP, the personal protection gear for their employees, whether they be masks, whether it's, necessitating hand washing, having the, different sanitizers available. And if someone is sick, then they encourage them to stay home. The sick and stay home policies are much more liberal and lenient than they ever, have been, and they need to be. So instead of encouraging a worker to come to work while they're sick, we're now encouraging them to stay home, get better, don't expose the rest of us, and everyone will hopefully be safer as a result.
And who is responsible legally for these businesses to monitor them and to make sure that they are adhering to COVID-19 regulations?
Are you asking who's responsible for the employee to monitor that, or the employer? If a sick person comes in?
Yeah, if just in the general operations sense, for the employees who are coming in, for the patrons who are coming in, who overall at each of these companies and these businesses is responsible for making sure that overall they're adhering to these COVID-19 guidelines?
Well, it's the employer. The employer has to make sure if there is a policy that no one can enter those doors without wearing a mask, then it's the employer who insists. And if they don't have a mask, then they have to provide the patron or the customer with a mask. Same with an employee. If the employee doesn't have a mask and that employer is requiring them to wear a mask, which they need to, then those masks have to be provided by the employer. Similar to signs saying, you must wash your hands. We used to see it in restaurants in the lavatories where, all employees need to wash their hands. Well, those signs are going to be all over in many businesses moving forward. And I think that's a positive step because oftentimes our country really wasn't that sanitary even before all COVID-19 took place. So we need to move in the positive direction of making sure our employees are safe, our customers are safe, and overall just maintaining that level of cleanliness and safety is better for not only that particular employer and all those employees within those walls, but the customers and our community at large.
And by and large, at least from the businesses that we've talked to and from what Erica Jones, our reporter, has seen out in the field, as she's been traveling to different businesses throughout Oakland County as they've reopened, we've seen a couple of different cases. Either A, they've been very compliant and have even used creative means to maintain that compliance, or they have delayed their reopening to make sure that they have the best policies they can possibly put in place, and that everybody on their staff and on their team is trained to make sure those are followed. So consequently, if there's a business that is not taking those precautions and isn't being as careful, what legally are the ramifications for a business crossing the line or simply just being lazy with COVID-19 regulations?
Well, the employees would have a cause of action if they suffer damages as a result. So let's just say someone got sick and, technically, really anyone can sue. Our legal system, our judicial system is set up where, anyone can sue for any reason at any time. Whether that cause of action sticks is another story. And you have to show damages. There's one thing, it's a two-pronged system. You have to show the negligence or the liability, but then you also have to show, did damages occur as a result of their negligence? So let's just say someone got sick, and then proving it is another reason. Is it a proximate and direct cause that this employer's failure to follow certain regulations and prevention cause this employee A to get sick? If that truly did occur and you can prove it, which is another situation because COVID is around us, all over the place. So how do you prove that they got sick in the workplace? But if you can, and there are damages that result, then of course they would be held liable.
Sabrina Cronin, the principal founder of the Cronin Law Firm, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Before I let you go, anything else that you'd like to say or anything else that is important to bring up that we haven't touched on yet?
I just think it's important for everybody to remember to stay safe, keep your spirits high. This too shall pass, but we are entering a new normal and we have to look at the positives of this new normal. Keep your, emotions in check. And always rely on someone if you need that extra help. Get that help if you need it. Don't take it out on, your loved ones. And just keep a positive spirit and everything will be fine. And don't watch the news so much.
Yeah, take a break. Watch the Megacast, always. But everything else, you can take a break from the rest of the news. You get all of it here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Sabrina Cronin, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, you too. Always appreciate it. Sabrina Cronin, the principal founder of the Cronin Law Firm, with us on the Oakland County Megacast.